Welcome to EduRev.
Hi friends, I'm Binu Krishna. I'm the faculty for art and culture. I have delivered more than 400 plus video lectures on various platforms, and as an aspirant, I've given 4 prelims, 3 mains and qualified for 1 interview. Now, how is this course of art and culture going to be different from every other course that you see on every other platform? Because the agenda here is very simple. I'm not trying to make you PhD scholars of art and culture. That is definitely not the needs of the exam. Rather, the agenda is very simple. We are going to follow the recent trends of UPSC in the exams, and we are going to follow those trends and make you clear of all the aspects of how you can get more marks following the recent trend patterns. So for that, we'll be concentrating on current affairs. We'll be concentrating on certain traditional concepts of UPSC, like for example your IVC, which is the most sought after syllabus amongst the students, which is also the most sought after topic by UPSC. If you take the previous trend, there are few topics that have been the major scoring aspects with regard to art and culture. The first thing is IVC, the second would be Vedic culture, the third would be Jainism and Buddhism. So that's how the trend has been. So with that as the agenda, let us try to move forward in the course. The first thing that we are going to concentrate is about the Indian architecture. So we are going to start with the architecture. As you all know, the concept of art and culture can be divided into various aspects like Indian music, Indian paintings, Indian theatre. Indian architecture is one among it. And why are we starting with Indian architecture? As I have told you before, just for the fact that IVC or Vedic culture has been the most sought after syllabus or sought after topics by the students, we are going to start with the Indian architecture. And in that topic, we'll be reading a variety of things like IVC, we'll be moving on to Mauryan culture, Gupta culture, we'll be studying about the most renowned South Indian architecture, the temple architecture, that's what I'm talking about. We'll be reading about the very significant Delhi Sultanate. We'll be reading about the Mughal dynasty, and finally we'll be concluding with the British colonial architecture. Why should we learn about Indian architecture? So there are 3-4 reasons. The first reason is this entire culture, if you want to decipher it, this 5,000-year-old culture that we have, now if you want to decipher it, you have to read about the Indian architecture, which in itself presents a very beautiful story, a very nice storyline of how early man came into picture, of how IVC as a civilization evolved, of how the Mauryan architecture or Mauryan culture evolved, and how the various religions like Buddhism, Jainism, Hinduism contributed a lot to the Indian culture. So to understand, to have a clarity of how the storyline emerged, we need to get a finer understanding about the Indian architecture in particular. The next important thing is, see, there have been a certain storyline as I've discussed to you. So there is an emergence of an empire, there is a decay of empire. So what did these kings do when they came to the rule? We have to understand that. For example, take this take this picture that I have here. Now this picture is about Rani Ki Vav, right? So Rani Ki Vav, which is a celebrated architecture of the Chalukya dynasty. So how do you relate this particular architecture to the present day scenario or to the contemporary world? Now you can understand that this particular structure is an inverted stepwell structure. Now this stepwell is used for water harvesting or water harnessing. So there is a relevance. That is why, to understand this relevance better, we need to get to know more about Indian architecture. And how has it been its influence felt throughout the Indian history? Of course, there has been a narrative that we are following, and we have the influence of certain religions upon the Indian culture. We do have certain relevance of the rulers upon the Indian culture. Like for example, take this particular picture. It is the picture of the CST terminus in Mumbai, right friends? So even now we know the importance of this particular terminus in Bombay. This is in fact one very important significant spot of Bombay. So that is why we say that there is a significant influence of the Indian architecture which is felt in the culture, and we have to read them one by one. So let us try to understand more of it. Evolution of civilization. Now let me ask you a question here. How has every civilization evolved in history? There is one common line. There is one common line for every civilization. Can you try to guess what it is? It is nothing but that beat any form of civilization, it has always evolved along river banks. River banks has been the most common trend with regard to the evolution of any civilization. Have you ever wondered why civilizations always evolved along the river banks? Why is it so? Why do you see this trend? That is because of, my dear friends, it is because of the fact that when you have river, that is where agriculture becomes possible. And only when you have agriculture, it will lead on to the next stage of life, which is settlement. So the early man, when he has to settle down somewhere, he will obviously choose a river bank. And when communities start getting formed, you will obviously lead to the formation of a civilization. Take the case of your Indus Valley Civilization. It is of course over the banks of the river Indus. Take the case of the Egyptian civilization. It is over the banks of river Nile. Take the case of the Mesopotamian civilization. It is over the banks of Tigris Euphrates. And this is how civilization has evolved. First of all, people are nomadic. Then they try to attempt to cultivate. After that, what happens? Now you have cultivated, which means should be a lot of crops. So that should be the next step. Of course, it is going to be harvesting. So for harvesting, of course, you need to stay in one single place for a very long span of time, right? So that's the next stage. So what happens because of that? Sedentary lifestyle emerges, and because of which you have societies getting formed. Now of course, when people stay together in one single place for a long period of time, of course families develop, societies develop, communities develop, and then finally it leads to the formation of some technological improvement, some sociological improvement, leading to what is known as civilization. Or what is civilization? A higher standards of living which is attained by human beings. So civilization happens in such a manner. So the Indus Valley Civilization, what are we going to read out here? Now I'm essentially dividing the entire lectures of Indus Valley Civilization into three aspects. The first thing is we are going to read about town planning, and in particular in town planning we'll be having about urban centers. Of course, IVC can be said to be one of the pioneer when you're talking about hydraulic engineering, when you're talking about the municipal system or the political structure. So when you're talking about the pioneers, when you're talking about a civilization which is actually a pioneer in many of the aspects, of course you have to read a lot about it. So urban centers, political structure, the town structure, the drainage system, as I mentioned to you, they are the pioneers of hydraulic engineering. They have facilitated almost excellent drainage system. And you have some very important structures like great bath and great granary. You have domestic house planning. All that would fall under town planning. And with regard to social life, here we'll be discussing more of things like what ornaments do you wear. So when you discuss about yours and mine social life, what do we discuss? Where are we going for party today? Or are we going to be safe with regard to the coronavirus? So these are the things that we discuss, right? The societal life that we are enjoying at present. We discuss about the clothes that we wear. We discuss about the ornaments that we wear, right? So agriculture, food habits, clothes, cosmetics, ornaments, games and sports. Of course, you cannot forget that. Entertainment is a very, very important aspect for a human being. And then tools, weapons, weights and measures, and finally religion. Now religion is said to be the opium of humanity in general, of the masses in general. So yes, if that is the case, then of course you have to read about religion, script, and finally death of human being leading to burial practices. So these are the things that we'll be reading in social life. We'll be then moving on to another very important aspect of UPSC, which is pottery. Now, be it anything Vedic civilization or Indus Valley civilization, pottery is always important. We'll be also discussing about the economic life of IVC. First of all, the term IVC, it has been first used by John Marshall. So John Marshall, who is he? Yes, we'll be coming to that in a very short while from now. It is also referred to as the Harappan civilization. Why so? See, for something to be called as Harappan civilization, it should have some reason, right? Why not Mohenjo-daro civilization? Why not Rakhigarhi civilization? Now that is because Harappa was the first site to be excavated in 1921, and it is called as the Bronze Age. Now again, there is something that is important. Why do we call this as a Bronze Age? Now, it is said that to form bronze, two ways have to be undertaken. See, essentially they should have mixed your copper with tin. That alloying process, the science behind this alloying process must have been known to the Indus Valley people. That's one thing. The second thing is the they should have either done this alloying process, which means they are scientifically advanced, or they should have indulged in trading with another civilization where bronze must have been traded between these two civilizations. So there are two ways: either they are economically prosperous or they are scientifically prosperous. So either way, we say that this civilization is technologically or sociologically more advanced. That is why we keep on saying that Bronze Age is said to be one of the supreme stages of evolution in terms of civilization. Let us try to understand this with the help of a quick question that we have here. Now, the Director General of Archaeological Survey of India at the time of excavation was none other than C. John Marshall. Now, Dayaram Sani, he was the one who found out the site, basically, Harappa. He found it out, but who was the person who was the Director General of the ASI? That was none other, John Marshall. Now, ASI, the contribution of ASI is quite significant. ASI, we'll be reading it more in the upcoming classes whenever we tend to read more of the institutions which belongs to the Indian culture, and ASI is one very important institution. Now, Alexander Cunningham founded this particular ASI, and very importantly, the excavation of the Harappan site was done by John Marshall. And another thing that I have to stress is some IVC sites and the persons who were associated for their excavation, that must be known like the back of your hand, my dear friends. So you have to understand that this urban growth is said to be one of the most important thing that has been done by Indus Valley Civilization. So what are those urban centers? Who excavated them? It is very important for your state public service examinations as well as SSC kind of examinations. Try to follow that. And the next thing is a quick map. Now maps are something that is very important because be it in your mains answer writing, when you draw a map nearby and then if you write your answer, it gets into the minds of the examiner. So you have to remember certain maps, and this is one such map. And another thing is, please take a look at this. Remembering the important points about the IVC sites is very crucial for both prelims as well as for mains. So for example, let us say take any particular place which is given in the map. Take for example Dholavira. Dholavira, when I tell to you immediately, something that strikes to my mind is the water harnessing system. Dholavira water harnessing system, they have a big advertising kind of signboard. So these are the things which is very well known in Dholavira. Similarly, what happens in Lothal? Lothal is famous for its dockyard. So dockyard is something that is where ships can enter and ships can move away. So navigation is very well known there. Another thing is the trade has been happening in such a city. So these are some things which, because of repeated revisions, you should get it immediately. Right, friends? Let us move forward. Yes, we are having a quick question here. That is, this is about Mohenjo-daro. The site was discovered by Dayaram Saini. It's false. It was by R.D. Banerjee. It is situated not on the banks of the river Satluj but on the banks of the river Indus. Remains of horse have been found not in Mohenjo-daro but it was from Sukhothara. So here, which of the above statements are not correct? Mind you, this is another trick that you have to remember. They have asked for not correct answer, and here the not correct answer is D, all of the above. So yes, with that we are concluding the lecture for the day. More of it is going to follow soon, and please follow all of the lectures in EduRev Infinity platform to crack UPSC CSE. Thank you so much and have a very nice day.